And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk, Breslin Center, Michigan State exhibition game tonight, 73-56. First time we've done a VCast down here without masks, Paul.
I feel like you've said that before.
Well, no, we did it with masks every time here. But in the NCAA tournament, we didn't have to have them. So first time without masks here since Cassius Winston's senior day, beating Michigan Big Ten championship.
Pretty
in a long
crazy,
time. Huh? And today we had interviews in the locker room for the first time since that night. That day, that afternoon. Back then, Imani Bates was a ninth grade commitment to Michigan State. Anyway, a lot of things have happened since then.
He was also generational talent at that time, not anymore.
Right. Long time ago. In some ways, it doesn't seem so long ago. But anyway, Michigan State tonight, 36-31. They were down at halftime. Grand Valley State came out. I've used this term a lot over the years, but they were a good sparring partner tonight. They came out, they played tough. Izzo says they out-toughed Michigan State a little bit, showed Michigan, gave Izzo something to bark at his team about tomorrow in practice. Malik Hall, we'll talk about him a little bit, played a lot of minutes at the 3, looked a little awkward kind of, looked better at the 4, which he's played his entire career. They put the offense through him in the second half during their game-changing run. He ended up game high with 15 points, but Michigan State kind of sputtered for quite a while. Grand Valley did their part. Michigan State got a few things done.
Yeah, I mean, some guys played really well in this, and you can see where some guys made significant improvements from last year. Tyson Walker and Mady Sissoko. Tyson Walker looked comfortable letting it fly, and he wasn't thinking about it. He shot every time he should shoot, and he made some good passes. I felt like he was a better point guard than A.J. Hogarth in the first half. Now, not all those passes led to assists, but lots of times they were the hockey-type passes. I thought he made really good decisions. Mady Sissoko, we've talked about this in a couple of VCasts now about how he's improved. Well, there's a difference between improving and looking improved in the practice gym and doing it on the floor. And he did it on the floor tonight, and the fact that he played 20 minutes and only had one foul, to me, is that's pretty amazing considering where he was at. He looks way better offensively than he did last year. We've seen that in practice where the post moves look good. But to see that translate into games, and there has been games where he's had 6 or 8 points or maybe even reached double figures, but there's never been games where he was consistently good from start to finish. We saw that today, and that's on the heels of other scrimmages, like in-house scrimmages, the scrimmage they played against Tennessee. So there's more than just like a little bit of flash in the pan there. We know that there's something to that, and this version of Mady Sissoko that they can play with all year long. So to me, that was one of the big takeaways. There were some things I didn't like, some things that they can't sustain or have to change, but him, Tyson Walker, those two guys, you play with those two guys and fix some other stuff, and I think they're okay.
Yeah, Sissoko, he's always been a good defensive player, but I thought his feet were even a little quicker today on defense. Remember that time when he closed out on the corner? He's moving his feet
here's
really
the thing,
well.
It's not that his feet are quicker, it's that he knows where he's supposed to be. When guys are thinking about stuff, they're always a step slow. I'll use the other version of that, Pierre Brooks. He doesn't know where he's supposed to be, and he's a step slow as a result. Sissoko has got the game figured out to the point where he can play defense without being on roller skates.
And Brooks is not a quick guy anyway, so it's a double whammy of not being all that quick, maybe not being in the best shape still. He's in good shape, but he can get better at that.
No, he's not in good shape. He's not where he needs to be. He's in decent shape if he played on a MAC team. He's not in Michigan State shape. There's a difference. A guy that's been in the program for 2 years, and they've had 2 years of regular weight room, should be in Michigan State shape. Tyson Walker was in good shape last year coming from Northeastern. This year he's in Michigan State shape. You look at Jaden Akins, what his body looks like. There's a difference between being kind of in shape and being where you need to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and the fact that he still has a ways to go. And he knows that he has a ways to go to get his body where it needs to be. That's a red flag in my opinion.
Well, and he had some miscommunication errors on defense too, it's happening a lot, and he knows he's being told he needs to shape that up if he's going to be a regular in the playing group, but he's got some things to prove between now and those big games coming up.
Yeah, and the other thing is what happens when Jaden Akins comes back. And then you've got the combination of two things. You get when Jaden Akins comes back, Pierre Brooks has to scrap and earn and claw for everything he gets. Now, if he does what he's supposed to do and he fights, and it's not just hitting 3-pointers, it's doing everything that he needs to do to be able to do the dirty work like Jaden Akins.
And if the guy you're guarding gets a dribble handoff from a center, he can't be caught behind it and give up an open 3.
Yeah. So he's got to do.
I mean, against some teams you can, but you could tell that the scouting report said not to do that with that guy, judging by Izzo's reaction.
Yeah. So and then this is a consistent thing for the defensive stuff. So that's the fastest way to get in the Izzo doghouse, and then to sulk about it.
I don't think it was. Did you see him sulking?
I think Izzo wants to see him fight back and be like Aaron Henry was when Aaron Henry was a freshman, or some other guys. You get tired of it, of making the mistakes. You fight back and you do the right thing.
I think he's trying. I think I've seen him in practice get challenged, and I think he's responding. It's just he's got to get that IQ improved too. A lot of things for Pierre Brooks.
Yeah.
But
here's the thing. Here's back to my original point. You got Jaden Akins coming back, so that's going to cut into Pierre Brooks' minutes. And then also on the flip side, you have Trey Holloman, who's 6'2", he's got a longer than that wingspan. I'd say his wingspan is probably in that Pierre Brooks range. Plus, he knows what he wants to do. He's willing to play defense and scrap and do the dirty work. And he's going to take minutes away, too, because he gives Michigan State what they need. Someone that can play defense and wants to play defense and wants to rebound and wants to do the dirty work. And, if you want to be on the floor, you got to give the program something they need.
And Holloman played 17 minutes tonight, and Pierre Brooks played about 20. Now, Holloman played more minutes tonight because Tyson Walker had some problems with cramps in the second half. So they gave Holloman some quality playing time in the second half when the game was still tight. Now, Walker came back, but they had to go with Holloman, and it wasn't – it wasn't awkward. He didn't turn it over and have problems. So
he can
nice
run
game.
the show. He can. I mean, because one thing you got to think about Grand Valley is with Cornell Mann, as was the case with Rick Wesley. They know how Michigan State likes to do things. So if you're not doing things the right way, you're going to get exposed in this game. And I thought, Trey Holloman, it's another guy we've been hearing good things about. Izzo said on media day he's going to play minutes. He's going to have a role for us. And based on what we saw tonight, even without the Walker injury. He was going to play minutes.
He's got the makings of being a more athletic Travis Walton.
I agree.
There's only been one Travis Walton that's come through here in 28 years. But Trey Holloman with that football background,
he's got that edge to him, man. He's tough as nails. He wants to get floor burns. He's like maybe a better point guard version of Walton. Because I think he has better point guard skills than Walton. I think Walton got good, decent point guard skills. He's functional. He's a good point guard defender. But Trey Holloman can create for his teammates.
Yes,
even at this age.
And as Holloman gets more and more comfortable with it, you are going to start seeing some dazzling passes from him. He's not doing it now because Izzo doesn't need that from a freshman point guard. But as he progresses through his career, Holloman's going to dish some dazzling assists, and that'll be fun to watch. Sissoko, did you see that turnaround jumper he had down here in the right block? I mean, there have been times in games where he's he's gotten the ball, maybe garbage time, shot clock down, and he musters a turnaround jumper and made one last year. This one, I mean, I can't remember if it was preceded by a shoulder fake the other way, but he turned to the baseline.
It was pretty.
It was pretty. It was giant. And I saw him in practice last week do a right-handed hook that was gigantic. I was sitting next to a couple guys from Indianapolis Cathedral Prep from, that's where Booker's from. Mm-hmm. They were watching practice, and he made that shot in practice, a right hook, and we're down there at court level, so you can really see that he released that thing above the rim from about 10 feet out. And the guy said to the guy next to him, he's like, man, when did they get Mutombo on this team? I mean, it was pretty.
That's something that Booker's going to have to learn how to do a little bit.
And Sissoko, he's bigger, stronger, he's running well. He's trying hard. He's moving well with ball screens, moving laterally, picking up, covering ground. Unlike last year, he knows the plays. The last couple of years, he'd get out there and then start a play, and he wouldn't have it right. And Izzo knows who he can bark at and who he can't. Sissoko is still, English is not his first language, so there was a lot of transition to go through.
He's getting better in that regard, too. Like, just interviewing after the game, it was easier to understand him. He understood me when I was talking to him, relatively. For being in a noisy locker room. So that communication piece is there. And, teammates rally around a guy like that because they know how tough it was for him. They saw him at his rawest. And he's a guy that just, is grateful for the opportunity to play here, regardless of playing time. And teammates root for guys like that. And, he did a nice job tonight. And I think overall that center position did a nice job tonight.
He's timing rebounds better. He's not going over the back of people to get rebounds. That's how he's got a lot of his fouls.
Foul.
And it was with 10 minutes to go in the game. He'd already played 18 minutes before he picked up his first foul.
And credit to Doug Wojcik, who is kind of does a lot of tough love stuff. But he's worked really, really hard, at least the practices that I've seen, with keeping Mady away from getting those fouls, like trying to explain to him, okay, if you move too far out this direction, or if you lean in this direction when you're moving out, you're going to get a foul. And when there are those opportunities, or when there are plays where he picks up an exuberant foul that he doesn't have to pick up, there is a lot of teaching and instruction on Wojcik's part. And, credit to Mady for taking tough coaching, because not everyone would want to hear or have someone in their face all the time saying, you can't, don't do this, don't do that. There hasn't been pushback. It's always, yes, sir, and with a smile. And it's not typical. And I think Mady's starting to have fun with this. I think his teammates are starting to have fun with him. And it's no longer, if you throw it inside, is he going to catch it? Or is it going to end up being, possibly your turnover if you throw it inside?
And he's a junior, which makes him a COVID sophomore, and he's enjoying his time here. And the people that are kind of, advised him when you interviewed him, when the people in Utah that, first attracted him to the United States out of Africa and so forth, they've got to be happy with the way things are going. And as he continues to develop, he might be here longer than we think. And he's got a future, whether it be in Europe or wherever else. The way he's working and progressing, you got to feel good for him, like you said. Well, and he's I'd say he's becoming a bona fide Big Ten center.
Yeah, and the other, like some of those guys we've seen, like maybe from Rutgers or Minnesota's had a couple of guys that were, like really, really sushi raw, and then they came on and, I'm not saying he's Omaruye from Rutgers yet, but but right now he's he's a guy that can play. I don't honestly know what he's going to look like when he goes up against Timmy or Shibway, because those guys are elite.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying he's going to he's going to be.
Yeah, those guys are first team All-Americans.
But he's got a chance against teams that against quality opponents, against quality Big Ten big men, to do some good things and give Michigan State what they need to get while Jackson Kohler and Carson Cooper develop.
He has a lot of learning still to do, but he's on his way. He hasn't totally arrived, but he's on his way.
And every time I see him, he gets a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And that's that's got to have Michigan State coaches really excited, because they know that every minute they invest in him coaching-wise, that there's a return on that. So, that to me, you can say, well, they didn't score 100 points against Grand Valley. I don't care, because the one thing I wanted to see, or one of the things I wanted to see, is this version of Mady, and we saw it.
Jackson Kohler was like the first or second guy off the bench, scored 6 points. The lateral movement, he's working on that, trying to cover ground. He's trying, but he's limited in terms of, foot speed, both, end to end and also laterally in the half court. But there was a little stretch there when he scored, and he kind of went to work with some quick game, in the post, getting to his shot, and he's got a pretty vast package of low post moves and could face up and do some things too. And he gave Michigan State a lift for like 6 points in a short period of time. It won't take long for opponents to get into his counter report to see what his moves are, but he's varied enough that he might be able to feel it and go with counters. So it's an interesting thing, because he's got some scoring ability, but there's some slippage in other areas that he's working on. So that's going to be an interesting thing how they use him.
The big thing is he's trying, right?
Yes.
We know that ball screen defense is going to be an issue for him. It just is what it is. But he wants to, and you saw that in the second half. I think he was a little bit nervous, maybe overly excited. He is a spaz in some ways. He gets amped up, and I felt like he was really amped up in that first half. The first time he got a touch in the post, I thought he had a good chance for a jump hook. He passes it out, credit to him, but then he gets it next time on the elbow. Next time he touches it, and he hoists a face-up jumper that was kind of ill-advised. It didn't hit anything. But I think second half he settled down, and I think also those Grand Valley bigs, as they played more minutes, I think they got tired, and that helped him.
Yeah, they had a real solid post player, Akunu, who's a transfer from Northern Illinois, scored 17 points, 6'7", and just kind of tricky, kind of old man game stuff going on. And he scored on Sissoko once or twice, and he gave them a pretty good run down there. He played 2 years at junior college, then Northern Illinois for 2 years. Now he's a fifth-year guy playing his first year at Grand Valley State. He's from the state of Illinois, and he was a nice sparring partner for the big guys down low for Michigan State.
And then the Grazoulis guy from the Marquette transfer, he's also pretty good. He's 6'11"?
6'11",
yeah,
Marquette,
this is a big.
Michigan.
This is a really big Grand Valley team, bigger than I'm used to. And they had some of those big guards, too. There's some good players. I think they're well coached. They're tough. You can win a lot of games, in the GLIAC. The GLIAC has got good talent, But they've got a chance to be really good. I think.
They ran some stuff that created open shots, just enough to make Izzo pissed off and call timeout and work on stuff. And that's what you want from an exhibition opponent. And they have more size than Division II teams usually have, which also made them a really great opponent. Izzo was not happy with a fast break today. A.J. Hogard, who they've been really happy with, not so great today. 5 assists, 4 turnovers. Carson Cooper played a little bit, about 6 minutes. That's probably going to be his role unless there's foul troubles or little dings and things like that.
But he
didn't look out of place.
No, I thought he played well. If Jackson Kohler can't move his feet on defense, you'll see Carson Cooper play more minutes.
If that becomes a problem against some opponents.
That's what you got to be watching for, because that's what his ability is right now. One thing all the bigs I thought was good, that they got a chance to get to the free throw line. We see a lot of these exhibition games where Michigan State does not get to the free throw line very often. So to see, I know they didn't shoot a high percentage today, but one of the reasons I don't think Michigan State shot a high percentage is so many different guys got to the free throw line, and that's good right now, because you want at some point, like, it's good for Mady to experience making free throws in front of the crowd. Right,
and Malik Hall, 15 points. Izzo said he did not play as well as he has played. Played a lot of the three today. That's another thing, though, when Jaden Akins comes back. I have a feeling that Malik Hall won't be getting those minutes of the three. It's something they're looking at, and Izzo makes a comment like, he said something like, a lot of guys, they want to change positions, but then they see how much more effort it might take, or it's just kind of different. He mentioned Tyson Walker in that vein, but he might have actually been talking about Malik Hall. Maybe they want Malik to continue to play the three. It was a little bit awkward today, in transition. He just kind of a fish out of water a little bit there, a little bit. And then when on defense, they had some wings that were like 6'4", 6'2", and they were putting him in ball screens there, and it's just difficult. We saw Miles Bridges, in my opinion, struggle to move from the 4 to the 3 as a sophomore, and was better at the 4 in closing minutes of games. And Malik Hall's no Miles Bridges, but Malik Hall moved to the 4 with like 10 minutes to go in the game. That's where he scored his points. That's where he found the open, comfortable windows of shots at the top of the key. But also that's what he's accustomed to. So there might be a lack of familiarity there
I
still.
Don't know. He's been playing 3 all summer, right? Okay, so because Jaden Akins has been out for a while, but they've been talking. This Malik Hall at the 3 is something we've been hearing about all off season, and so it's. To say right now it's a lack of familiarity or a lack of comfort, that's to be nice to Malik Hall, because to me, the obvious one was when he's dribbling up the court in transition and he steps on the sideline. Like, how does that happen? You rarely see that.
There were a couple times when Hollenhauser put the ball on the deck and it didn't go well,
right?
Which we've seen before.
And I feel like if you look at one of the things that is glaring on the stat sheet is the rebounds on this, and then when Malik Hall plays the 3. He's so far away from the basket, and Sissoko's not a really big guy.
On defense, talking about?
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, like defensive rebounding especially. If Michigan State wants to run, they can't out-rebound Grand Valley. Izzo wants to say, well, we didn't run very well. Well, look at the stat sheet. The rebounds will tell the story on that, and if you're getting out-rebounded by 5 at halftime, which Michigan State was, I believe it was 5, against Kentucky, it's going to be like 25, or so like people are like, a couple people on the message board were like, man, you're negative. I'm not looking at Michigan State getting out rebounded by 5 by Grand Valley. I'm trying to think of what happens if you play Purdue.
Yeah, you got to project that forward.
So if you have a 4-man, and the same thing with Miles Bridges, you have 4-man, Draymond Green, the same thing. If you have those 4 men around the basket, it's a lot easier to get rebounds than if you're coming in and trying to get range rebounds. It's way easier being in that kind of that sweet spot for rebounds than it is coming all the way from the top of the circle.
Yeah, Grand Valley with 12 offensive rebounds. They got offensive rebounds on 33% of their missed shots. That's too many. Now, Malik Hall also, when it came time for a teammate to get a defensive rebound and he got into the sideline to run the lane in transition, that's not his natural habitat either. So he's trying. I give him credit for looking into it. Maybe Izzo, said that's something that they wanted to explore. Also, if they get some injuries, they're going to want to be able to have that flexibility to move him to the 3, but I'm not sure that's
or against some teams that are just built differently.
And when he was at the 3, they posted him up they posted him up against 6'2", 6'3" guys, which is the theory. Okay, we're going to go big. We've got a 6'9" small forward. You're matched up with him with a 6'2" guy. We're going to post you up, which sounds good on paper, but he got in the post and missed a turnaround jumper. those are not easy shots.
I guess it
depends. In the 1970s, that's a high percentage shot. But in today's basketball, a turnaround jumper, even against a 6'2" guy, might not be it might be easier to hit an open. It's easier to hit an open three than it is a turnaround jumper for some guys.
I just feel like it depends on how built that guy is, right? So if you're going up against a 6'2" or 6'3" guy and he's built like a linebacker, that ain't easy. And on the flip side, if you have a huge height advantage, you're not going to get fouls called. You know, like you go, if that guy hits you, it just is what it is. We see it all the time. Guys that are undersized guys get away with a lot of pushing and shoving.
Hauser and Hall are two of their best players. So if Sissoko's going to start, where do you put Hall? That's kind of what it comes down to. And you're going to need to start Sissoko against some of the bigger opponents. You're not going to want to start Hauser and Hall.
You're going to have to go minutes. You're going to have to go some minutes for Joey's. You're going to have to try to finesse it where there's a couple minutes that Joey's at the 5 or Malik is at. You know, you got to, or just split it straight down the middle.
Who doesn't start? Hauser or Hall?
I mean, you got to talk to those guys and say, hey, what do you want to do? I mean,
unless Hall stays at the 3, which I'm not sure.
That ain't happening because Jaden Ankins is a guy that. So one of my things I'm wondering about coming out of this game, one of my big questions is what kind of rebounding team is Michigan State going to be? And I know how Jaden Akins can fly around. So you put him at the 3 with his athleticism, and you put Hall at the 4 or Joey Hauser at the 4, and then I think you've got you're cooking with gas a little bit instead of trying to it's a lot easier than saying to all your guards you need to get 1 more or 2 more rebounds than you would normally get. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Jaden Akins is the guy that they want at the 3. Maybe Hall in some instances, but
they'll keep looking at it. But Hall and Hauser will play together sometimes, but it's not like I don't think you're going to start that lineup against many teams. You'll finish some games maybe with that because they'll like to go small and with a shooting lineup just to see how it works out. But in terms of long stretches to be like that to be part of your main your base 5, it's difficult because you could run into situations where you have trouble defending the low post. Malik Hall's got some size to him, and against teams not named Michigan, Purdue, or Kentucky or Gonzaga, Malik Hall might be able to play some low post center against some teams. So they'll find minutes for those guys.
And I'm not exactly sure what Tennessee's personnel was, but it sounded like Izzo liked what he did at the 3 better against Tennessee than he did against Grand Valley. And some of that has to do maybe with quickness. I don't know what Tennessee's 3 situation looks like. And then the other thing with Malik Hall, I'm going to give him a little bit of criticism, then I'll come back with a shout out. But he is a guy, in my opinion, that at times plays up and down depending on the situation. So it wouldn't surprise me if he played really hard against Tennessee and it took this game off. And you can't do that now.
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose, but human nature being what it is. You do see stuff like that. In Malik Hall, for a guy that has as much talent as he does and as much ability to take a game over, there's stretches where he disappears. Now, to his credit in this game, like he was one of the guys in the locker room that was talking at halftime about what we need to do, and he was also one of the guys in the second half that was communicating at a much higher level defensively and in all facets on both ends of the floor in the second half than he was in the first half, and he was talking in huddles. So he did make an adjustment, at least from a vocal leadership standpoint. So I don't want to dump on him and say, hey, he just took this game off, because I don't think he did. But you wonder if his focus was flagging in this game as in comparison to the Tennessee game, and I feel like that's what Izzo was saying at the podium.
Sure.